Have you ever seen someone look completely calm in the middle of chaos and wondered where that kind of confidence comes from? Not the loud kind. Not the kind that needs attention. I mean, the quiet confidence that makes a stadium full of people believe before anything has even happened. Tonight, I want to take you to the middle of England, to a city that does not usually sit at the center of the football world. Before the bright lights of Madrid, before the Champions League music, before people began to speak his name like a promise, there was just a boy in Birmingham with a ball at his feet and a world that seemed much bigger than him. This is the story of Jude Bellingham, a boy who entered professional football before he was old enough to drive, a young star who carries pressure the way other people carry a jacket, naturally, quietly, as if it belongs there. Jude. Victor. William Bellingham was born on the 29th of June, 2003, in Stourbridge, in the West Midlands of England. Football was not something distant in his life. It was there from the beginning. His father, Mark Bellingham, was a goal scorer in non-league football, a man who understood the game not as a dream on a screen, but as work, rhythm, repetition, and pride. His mother, Denise, gave the family structure and calm. Between them, Jude grew up in a home where ambition was allowed, but discipline was expected. As a child, Jude was not the kind of boy who seemed afraid of older players. He did not play like someone waiting for permission. He wanted the ball early. He wanted it often. And once he had it, he did not seem interested in giving it back. Coaches noticed something rare in him very quickly. He was not only talented, he understood space. He understood timing. Even as a boy, he played as if he could already feel where danger would appear before everyone else saw it. Birmingham City brought him into their academy, and there, the pattern became impossible to ignore. He was younger than the others, but he did not look smaller inside the game. He could tackle, carry, pass, turn, press, and arrive in the box at the right moment. Some young players have one gift that makes people excited. Jude seemed to have 5 or 6 at the same time. Then came the part where promise had to survive reality. It is one thing to shine in the youth football. It is another thing to step into the professional game, where grown men are fighting for contracts, reputations, and food on the table. That world is not patient. It asks one question only. Can you handle this? Jude answered early. In August of 2019, at just 16 years old, he made his senior debut for Birmingham City in the League Cup. A few weeks later, he became Birmingham City's youngest ever goal scorer. The record was not the most important part. The important part was how normal he made the moment feel. He did not play like a frightened child, surviving on adrenaline. He played like he had been expected there all along. Soon, the football world began to look in his direction. Big clubs saw the same thing Birmingham had seen years before. But attention can be dangerous when it arrives too early. For many young players, praise becomes a trap. People stop seeing the person and start seeing the headline. Jude kept moving. In the summer of 2020, he made the first great decision of his career. He did not stay in England and choose the safest famous name. He went to Borussia Dortmund in Germany. To some people, that move felt surprising. To Jude, it felt smart. Dortmund had already shown the world that it knew how to turn gifted young players into serious men. It was not only a club, it was a bridge between potential and proof. In Germany, the game became faster, sharper, and less forgiving. But Jude seemed to grow stronger with every month. He did not hide behind his age. He played with energy, courage, and control. He won duels. He carried the ball through pressure. He defended like he was angry. then attacked like he had just remembered something beautiful. By the time many players are still waiting for their first real chance, Jude was already shaping big matches in one of Europe's most demanding environments. And then there was England. To wear your country's shirt is one kind of pressure. To wear it while everyone says you are the future is another. England loves its young stars, but it also loads them with expectation until they can barely breathe. Jude entered that world as a teenager, surrounded by noise, opinions, and endless comparison. Still, when the big tournaments came, he did not look overwhelmed. He looked ready. At the World Cup in Qatar, and later in the European Championship, he played with the kind of authority that makes age irrelevant. He could slow the game, he could accelerate it, he could defend his own box and then appear moments later near the other one. He did not behave like a young player visiting the world stage. He behaved like someone who intended to stay there. But talent alone is never enough to make a story powerful. People remember skill and goals. What makes them care is something deeper. With Jude, that feeling comes from the way he competes. There is steel in him, not the empty kind that shouts. Real steel, the kind that keeps asking for the ball after a mistake, the kind that treats pressure as an invitation. By the time Real Madrid came for him in 2023, the move no longer felt like a gamble. It felt like the next sentence in a story that had been writing itself for years. Real Madrid is not a normal football club. It is a stage built for people who can survive history. Every great player is compared with legends. The shirt is white, but the weight on it is heavy. And yet Jude arrived as if he understood exactly where he was. He did not shrink beneath the badge. He seemed to expand into it. Very quickly, he became more than a new signing. He became a presence. He scored important goals. He played with personality. He gave supporters the feeling that they were not just watching a talented young midfielder. They were watching the beginning of someone who might define an era. Because rising is one challenge, but remaining clear inside the rise is another. Fame changes the air around a person. Every smile becomes a headline. Every bad game becomes a warning. Every silence becomes a story someone else writes for you. The higher you go, the harder it becomes to hear your own voice. So what makes Jude Bellingham different? Part of the answer is in the way he learned early. He did not enter the game through luxury. He entered it through structure, competition, and responsibility. Part of it is in his choices. Birmingham, Dortmund, Madrid, each step looks bigger from the outside, but each one also shows patience and judgment. He has not moved like a boy chasing noise. He has moved like a professional building a life. And part of it is something you cannot easily teach: presence. Some players arrive in a stadium and look smaller under the lights. Others seem to borrow energy from the moment itself. Jude belongs to the second group. Big games do not make him hide. They seem to call out a more complete version of him. That is why so many people believe his story is still only beginning. He already has the profile of a global star, the trust of giant clubs, and the respect of serious football people. But the most important thing is this: he still feels unfinished in the best possible way. He does not look like a player who has reached the top and settled there. He looks like someone still climbing. One day trophies will decide how history ranks Jude Bellingham. People will count titles, goals, assists, and medals. They will compare him with the greatest names England has ever produced. That part will come. But tonight, that is not the most interesting part of his story. The most interesting part is how early he learned to live inside expectation without becoming trapped by it. How a boy from the Midlands stepped into rooms full of older, stronger, more famous men and did not ask to be protected. How he kept choosing growth over comfort. How he turned pressure into proof. Some players make you admire them. Some make you dream. Jude Bellingham does both, because when you watch him, you do not just see what he is. You begin to imagine what he might become if the courage stays, if the hunger stays, if the mind remains as clear as it is now. And maybe that is the real lesson in his story. Confidence is not always loud. Sometimes it is a 16-year-old walking into professional football as if he belongs. Sometimes it is leaving home to become more than your first success. Sometimes it is wearing one of the heaviest shirts in world sport and making it look natural. Sometimes it is asking for the ball when the whole stadium can feel the pressure. Jude Bellingham's story is still being written. We are not looking back at a finished legend. We are watching a young man move through the dangerous middle, where talent must become character and promise must become history. And somewhere inside that journey, there is a boy from Birmingham still chasing the ball, still playing without fear, still moving toward the brightest part of the stadium, as if that was always where he was meant to be. That boy is no longer waiting for the future. He is becoming it.